Let's talk about your first job in tech. You know, when you were full of ideas, opinions, and possibilities. You were ready to set the world on fire with code and caffeine, and eager to take on any challenge with every keystroke. At ThoughtWorks, our mission is to fuel this feeling. To be a place where you do what you love. A place where solving people's problems and making a difference are a top priority. Where you can follow your curiosity wherever it leads. Why? Because when we all work as one in supporting each other's ideas, goals, and journeys, things change. Conversations change. Expectations change. Ultimately, the way the world works begins to change. And we call that type of change extraordinary impact. We want to challenge ourselves, our colleagues, ideas, assumptions, and solutions. Do what we believe is right for our clients and society. Thrive in and outside of work while having a voice. And together, we make extraordinary impact.
Boa tarde, Pythonistas. Boas-vindas ao nosso último dia de Python Brasil. O meu nome é Tatiane. Para a descrição visual, sou uma mulher branca de cabelos negros ondulados, amarrado na altura da cabeça. Eu estou usando uma blusa azul da Python Brasil e uma calça comprida preta. Para todas as pessoas que estão assistindo pelo canal da Python Brasil no YouTube, toda a comunicação está sendo realizada pelo servidor do Discord. Lá você poderá mandar perguntas para palestrantes e interagir com as empresas patrocinadoras. O link foi enviado por e-mail e postado em nossas redes sociais. Quero convidar todas as pessoas que estão assistindo a interagirem com o evento nas nossas redes sociais, marcando @PythonBrasil e usando a hashtag PyBR2022. E se postar alguma foto ou vídeo, a gente vai repostar na nossa página também. Toda a programação do evento está disponível e atualizada no nosso site 2022.pythonbrasil.org.br. O nosso evento segue um código de conduta. Vocês podem consultar através da página python.org.br/cdc. Caso você considere que houve quebra de código de conduta, procure alguma pessoa com a camisa amarela ou acesse python.org.br/denúncia. Caso encontre algum pertence perdido, vocês podem entregar lá no credenciamento. I'm going to start the introduction in English. Welcome everyone to the last day of Python Brazil 2022. My name is Tatiane, and for visual description, I'm a white girl, use black hair, curly and banded, using a blue shirt and black pants. We're going to start our presentation with Mariatta. Mariatta is from Google, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Thank you. Hi. Oh my God. I gotta take a selfie. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Well, okay. Hi, Brazil. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm real honored that you've invited me here to come to the conference so that I could meet the community in Brazil, the Python community in Brazil. My name is Mariatta. I live in Vancouver, Canada. And you can find me on internet, on Twitter, GitHub, Instagram. I work as Senior Developer Relations Engineer at Google. I've been at Google for almost 1 year, and what I do is I maintain open source Python client libraries for Google Cloud Native databases. Outside of Google, I'm also the chair for PyCon US 2023 and 2024. PyCon US is the largest annual gathering for the Python community members worldwide. And it's been really inspiring for me to meet the Brazilian Python community here. I would like for you to come meet the rest of the Python community and for the community to meet you. So consider this my personal invitation for you to come to PyCon next year in Salt Lake City. We've just launched the website, and you can find lots of information there. I also would like to see you speak at PyCon. You can do this. Go check out the call for proposals. And our community really needs to hear your perspectives and your experiences. And there are travel grants available, so come. I'm also in the PyLadies community. I'm one of the administrators, moderators, and also the global advisors for PyLadies. PyLadies is an international mentorship group with a focus on helping more women become active participants and leaders in the Python open source community. I've emphasized the words active participants and leaders, so please think about this phrase throughout this talk. And I've been contributing to a lot of open source projects. So when we witnessed the Mars Ingenuity helicopter took flight in Mars for the first time, it uses open source projects like Python. So I think they told me I have commits that ended up on a different planet. I find it still hard to believe, I don't know, but maybe I trust GitHub. The thing about contributing to open source is that if you contributed a lot, one day the maintainer might just say, hey, maybe we're just gonna give you commit rights so you can just merge your own pull request from now on. And that's how I become an open source maintainer. The first time this happens was 2016. I got asked to become a maintainer for Koala. And this happens only 1 month after I started contributing to the projects. And it's due to my participation during Hacktoberfest just the month before. I am also a co-maintainer of the GitHub library, which is an async Python library for interacting with GitHub APIs. And since January 2017, I got commit privileges to Python. So I'm a maintainer of Python programming language, and the group of people who have commit rights to Python are called Python core developers. Now, when people learn that, oh, you're a Python core developer, they assume that I program in C. I don't know how to program in C. It's true that the interpreter for Python is written in C, but if you go to GitHub, and where our source code is hosted, you can see that C is just a part of Python. This picture shows what Python is made of. A lot of it is actually written in Python, and a few different things. And there are more to maintaining Python than just code. Like my contribution to Python has been mostly in the area of documentation, the workflow, the dev guide. I made GitHub bots. I care about contributor experience. I help form the documentation community group, which is a special interest group within the core Python team. I also I co-chaired the Python Language Summit at PyCon for 4 years. So Python Language Summit is a meeting that happens once a year at PyCon US, and it's attended by Python core developers. And I think that a lot of people misunderstood what exactly it means to be a Python core developer. There are lots of aspects. There are lots of different types of roles, different types of things to do to keep the project running. And each of the core developers, they take on different responsibilities. And there are core developers who write lots of code. There are people focusing on making Python faster, focusing on the typing module, on packaging of it. And there are people like me who contribute and care about things about documentation and workflow and experience. So the reality is, unless you're actually contributing to Python, you likely don't know what happens on the inside. From the outside, you think that, oh, Python is in C, so everybody who contributes to Python must be C programmers. We learned how to use Python, but we never really know how it got made. And this is normal, like nothing wrong with this. I too, for a long time, I didn't know what Python was made, how it happens. I didn't know what are Python core developers. In the beginning, I was a total newbie. I was so newbie that when I used Python for the first time, I thought Python is made by Apple. Like it was there on my laptop. I didn't have to download anything. My coworker said, let's open terminal, type Python, and it works. So I thought it's a product of Apple. That's how newbie I was. But the fact is, Python is open source. Not only that, it's made by volunteers. Now, someone recently asked me here in Manaus, wow, you must get paid a lot as a Python core developer maintaining Python language. My salary as Python core developer doubles every year. It's zero. And as a newbie, I didn't even know what open source really means. I thought it means that if I can see the source code, if somebody put their source code online, I can see it, then it's open source. But it's not just about making your source code available. It's also about how the code can be used. It's about licensing. The license of open source project tells you how the code can be used and distributed. So it's not enough that source code is available. You have to know what the license is. You must adhere to the rules of the license before using it. And there is a community surrounding open source. Open source relies on contributions from community members. And when I say community, I did not mean just maintainers. Maintainers is one type of community members, and there are so many ways to participate and contribute. It's not just about committing code, creating pull requests. There are other aspects of open source. We need people to triage issues. We need to have documentations, translators to translate the documentations, teacher who will teach code, people to organize events and conferences like this, the speakers who speak at events. There are also people handling code of conduct issues within the community to ensure that our community can become a safe and welcoming space for everyone. Everyone here is a part of community, even the users. Our users are part of the community. And each of these community members have different roles, different functions, accomplish different goals. Some members actually take on more than one role. Maybe they are a user who are also contributing to open source. Maybe they are also speaking or also event organizers. Some people sit on the board of the directors or on the Python steering council. These people who take on these additional roles within this community, we regard them as, our community leaders. Not only they're using Python, they're spreading knowledge, helping, facilitating so that our community can grow. It is the community that made open source happen. Members of the community, not only they can contribute to open source, they have the power, the ability to influence the direction of open source project. Although this power is not equally distributed, certain members of the community, they have stronger influence over the code base. Like they get to make decisions about whether your PR should be merged or not. But other members of the community have different kind of power and privileges. They may not have direct say to what gets into the code base, but they get to influence people in a different way. Python Brazil itself, I think, is a great example. Like I hear that as members of community, you get to vote where the next Python Brazil should be. Like the other day, I heard people talking about trying to influence each other. Like let's vote for Python Brazil in Rio. Like that is community. And book authors, bloggers, authors, teachers, they get to teach about how you can code, what are the best practices in programming. Our community leaders, they inspire the rest of us. They encourage us to learn something new, to collaborate, to also bring new ideas so that the community can grow. And for me, ever since I became active in this community, as a Python core developer, as public speaker, I've benefited so much. Like I've enjoyed a lot of privileges. I've learned a lot. And I've seen so many opportunities and doors open to me, things I never thought would ever be possible. For example, like I received awards, like the Python Community Service Award from the PSF. I received Open Source Peer Bonus Award from Google twice before I joined Google, and I think that all of this helped me get a better job at Google. And whenever I reflect back on my experience, one of the things I have this biggest regret in my life. One of the things I regret is that how come I didn't know about all this? It took me years of programming in Python before I finally discovered you, the community. Like, how come nobody told me about this? Where have you all been? When I first learned Python, it wasn't very formal. Like I didn't go to courses, I didn't take classes about Python. I just learned from my coworkers. I saw how they write Python, they show me with pair programming. That's how I learned Python. And I was told only about how to use it, how to code, not about a community. Nobody told me about conferences or meetups. Nobody told me it's possible to contribute to open source. It was only after so many years that finally I have a coworker who went to PyCon. He returned, he told us about it. He told me about PyLadies community. After I learned about it, that's when I got curious, and then I tried to find out, hey, how do I attend PyCon? And then I realized that there's going to be a PyCon in Montreal, in my country, where I was living. So I became curious, I want to go. But then I became intimidated, like, because it was expensive. I couldn't afford to go. Then I learned that, hey, there is financial aid from PyLadies that would allow me to go. So I applied, I got it, I attended the conference. Attending PyCon 2015, receiving financial aid from PyLadies, this whole thing changed my life. At the conference, I attended the keynote from Guido van Rossum, who is the creator of Python. In his keynote, he talked about the fact that the Python core developers team at that time, 2015, there was no women. The Python Language Summit was a room of 50 men. And then during that keynote, Guido said he was willing to mentor women into contributing. So imagine this opportunity to be mentored by Guido van Rossum. I'm curious, if you hear something like this, what is your reaction? I'm sure, I bet you all will be like, yeah, I'm going for it. I want to contribute to open source. I want to be mentored by Guido. But not me. At that point in my life, I said to myself, there's no way I could do this. There's no way Guido would ever mentor me. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be mentored by someone like Guido. I just didn't feel like I was part of the community. I attended the community for the first time ever. I'm just a user, an outsider, I'm nobody. So, for the whole year, even though I know that there is such opportunity to contribute to open source, I did nothing. It really wasn't until the next year when I All right, this works. Okay, where was I? So it wasn't until next year when I returned to PyCon 2016. I thought I would be hearing news about, hey, who are these new women core developers? But instead, Guido says that there is still no women at all, and he renewed his commitment to mentor people. Now, lots of people have asked me just how did this happen? How did you eventually become a Python core developer? The thing is, this question is really hard for me to think about. I couldn't think about my success as a core developer without being reminded that at some point in my life, how it really happened is that in the beginning, I discriminated myself. I said to myself, I did not deserve this opportunity. Nobody else said it. Nobody said, hey, Mariatta, you should not contribute to open source. But at the same time, nobody told me this is a thing I could do. And somehow, based on my life experiences, my default reaction is, I don't belong. To say no, I don't deserve things. I excluded myself. And until now, I have not forgiven myself. Even today. You know what changed me? How did this happen? It only took one person who said to me, only one, and it's not even in person, it's on Twitter. Guido van Rossum said to me, this is imposter syndrome. I can help. That is all. That is all it took to change my mind from thinking, I cannot do this into, okay, maybe I'll try. It was only 6 months after this that for the first time, there is a woman who became a Python core developer. Yes, it's me. And thank you. But whenever you ask me this question, I think about all of this, and I keep thinking to myself, like, what other things did I say no to? What other opportunities have I missed out on? If nobody told me about PyCon, nobody told me about financial aid, no one invited me and said, come let me help, I wouldn't be here. Without the community who not only opened the door, but also reached out and brought me in, I would not be here. And I really keep thinking about my own mistake, why I didn't know about this. I keep thinking about what other opportunities I missed out simply because nobody told me about it. I couldn't go back in time to try to fix my own mistakes, to change my past behavior in order to be able to forgive myself. What I need is to ensure that you don't repeat, you don't make the same mistake I did. Because I know I'm not the only one who felt like that, who felt like they're just an outsider, that they don't belong, they are not part of the community, they have nothing to contribute to. But even newbies are part of the community. So, in case nobody has said this to you, I hope somebody has said this to you before, but just in case, I'm saying it now. You belong, you can contribute to open source, to the community, you are part of the community. This community is you, your input to the community matters. You can influence the rest of us. You can inspire the community. The opportunities in the community belongs to you. You can be more than just a user. You are not an outsider. You can contribute. You can take active participation in the community and become community leaders. So what can you do? Yes, you can contribute to open source. You can contribute to code. And I feel like I don't have to try to convince you. Everybody here in this room, I know you want to contribute to code. I know that. So that's great. Contributing to code is straightforward. Whichever project you want to contribute to, same process. I would advise, don't limit yourself to just contributing to Python. Just find any project you depend on, any project you're passionate about. You gotta read the contributing guide. In Python, the contributing guide is called the dev guide. You gotta watch for issues, help review incoming pull requests. For Python, all of this happens on GitHub. And then you gotta participate in their discussion forums. So if they use something like Discord or Slack or IRC or Discord, whatever, you gotta join. You gotta know what's going on with the project. Contributing to code is easy. This is how you do it. Let me tell you about other ways you can participate in the Python community. Documentation translation. Most of the Python core developers, we speak English. We write our documentation in English. But this is a barrier to a lot of people. The fact that there is a translator here today who are super awesome and amazing translating my speech to you, it tells me that this is a barrier for you. You don't read the docs, we write. Translating documentation into native language of the users is one of the most impactful work, directly affect the whole community. And the effort for doing this is done by volunteers. So if you know more than one language, you can help with this. You will be helping everybody in this room, everybody in this country. The details for translating is written up in PEP 545 is not secret, is open source. And there is a specific section about the toolings of the translation on the dev guide. And there are already ongoing translation efforts into languages such as Spanish, French, Portuguese, Arabic, Japanese, Chinese. Earlier this year, the Spanish Python translation community announced that they reached 100% docs translated. For the very new Python 3.10 at the time, this is the only community that has reached 100% translation. Like, this is amazing. Maybe you all want to compete. Maybe next year we hear about Portuguese translation reaching 100%. You all have the ability to do this. This is done by community, not by the core developers. By you. And you don't need to start from scratch. There is already a community working on translation to Portuguese as spoken in Brazil. Today, this is only 47% complete. You can help. Go talk to Marco. He's here at the conference. Another thing you can do is to become a member of the PSF. Membership is free. As a member, you can receive news about activities and opportunities within the Python community. The majority of the work for the PSF is focused on empowering and supporting people within the Python community. PSF has grants and supports things like development sprints, conferences and meetups, and as a member of the community, you can receive grants and support. As a member of the community, you can influence this decision of how and who will be receiving such grants. How can you influence such decision? You should ensure that your community is represented in the PSF Board of Directors. You want to have leaders who will have your community's best interest. You want to have leaders who you can trust, who you can communicate with. We need diverse representatives in the Board of Directors. How can you ensure that your community is represented? Then you should become a voting member of the PSF. And then you should vote for someone who can represent you. Better yet, why don't you run for the PSF Board of Directors? Who is best to represent your community other than you? So, if you just want to vote, how do you do this? There are different classes of memberships. The basic membership is free, anyone can join. But if you want voting privileges, you need to be one of the following. The first way costs money. You gotta donate $99 a year to the PSF. Then you can receive voting privileges. I realize this is not something everybody can afford. Good news, there are other ways that don't cost money. You can be a managing member. If you volunteer 5 hours a month, you run infrastructure, you organize meetups, you organize conferences. Because of your active participations as leaders of your community, you will get to vote. You can be a contributing member. If you volunteer your time to contribute to open source projects 5 hours a month, for example, if you work on document translation 1 hour a week, you get to vote. PSF fellow members also get to vote. You, as members of the community, can nominate your community leaders into becoming PSF fellow members. This depends on your nomination. So I've given you lots of ideas on how you can improve the community because you are the community. You can help in lots of different ways, not just code. Everyone in this community, even the newbies, matter. So why am I telling you about all this? Because I actually need help from you, from the community. There is a different problem that I don't know how to solve. I've talked about representation, diversity. I talked about how in the Python core team, up until a few years ago, there was no women. So this is one of the most recent group photo we took at the Python core developer sprint. This is in-person sprint where a lot of the active core developers come and collaborate for a week. So I'm in this photo and I'm super happy. Like I really miss these folks. Like whenever I meet them in person, I enjoyed it. I learned from them. But I also felt uneasy. This is a group of people who have very strong influences of the Python programming language. This is the Python core developers, contributors, triagers. This is a group of 26 people, most of them white men, only 2 women here. The truth is we still have issues with diversity in core team. We are not done. And this is just some of the core team. Right now there are about 100 Python core developers, maybe 105, 110. Out of 100 people, only 7 are women. And most of them are white men. So we still have work to do. And now that you know that these are the core developers, do you see yourself represented here? Do you know any of them? Have you interacted with them, except with me? Like the creator of Python is here, the steering council members, the faster C Python team, Python release managers, creators of F-strings and data classes. This is a group of people who get to make decisions about the language. And if you never met them, they don't look like you. Even though you're a part of the community, you don't know how to get in touch with them. You're gonna feel like you're nobody. You're an outsider. And if you and this group of people are not connected in any way, how can you be sure that the Python they are making is the Python you want? Like, how can you be sure your voice is heard by them? There is a gap between the people who can make a lot of decisions about Python and the actual users. Yes, we are part of the community. We are open source. Our communications happen open in public. But do you actually know where these are? Where are the forums? Do you know that whatever features you see in the next Python release, tomorrow we have Python 3.11. All of this don't happen overnight. The code don't just appear. Not only the code don't appear, these things are discussed for years before the code gets written. And you know, in Python, we don't just add new features, we remove things. We deprecate things. Again, not overnight. If we deprecate things, it will be discussed. It will take 2 Python releases, 2 years, before we actually remove things. It will be discussed in our issue tracker discussion forums. If we don't know about you, how you use Python, how can we be sure we don't remove the features you actually depend on? And we don't do this in secret. Again, these are all public discussions. But you did not know discussions are happening. You did not know that you could participate. You could raise objections or show support. You could influence Python if only you know about it. If you actually join the discussions forum, if you participate and contribute. The people who are affected by the decisions made by Python core developers are somewhere out there. They are not participating, they are not being invited or included to the conversations with the core developers. And there are barriers into participating. Like these barriers disproportionately affect members of the underrepresented group. Maybe the people who have the ability to contribute to Python don't speak English. Maybe the people who has the ability to influence don't know they could do it. Maybe they're at home having to care for their children because there is no support. Maybe they're busy working twice as hard just so they can earn the same as men. Maybe they could not afford to come to the United States to meet with the other core developers. Maybe they just don't know this is something they can do. Maybe nobody told them yet that the community exists. Whenever people find out about diversity in the Python core team, they would point fingers and say, you gotta fix this, you gotta do something about it. We are trying, we are doing something about it. That's why I'm here, I'm telling you about all the different ways you can contribute, different ways you can make meaningful impact to the community, opportunities for you to help lower the barriers in the community and close this gap. This is your community too, and your help, your participation is needed. And you know what? Even if you say, I can't donate to the PSL, I can't volunteer, I don't have time, I don't have priority, that's still okay. Please take care of yourself first. I ask you to do just one thing for me. Just help one other person. Tell one other person about the Python community. Tomorrow when you go back to work, tell your coworkers or your friend who missed out, who was not here today. Tell them about what you learned here throughout the conference. Tell them that they should come meet us next year. When you're here, you come back here, you take them with you, introduce them to the rest of the community. I will leave you with this quote today. I read it from Brad Cannon's blog. Don't just open the door, welcome people through it. And he wrote this blog post in January 2017, and this resonates with me a lot because that day, the day this got posted, that was the day I became a Python core developer. So thank you so much, Python Brazil. It's been such an honor to be here. Thank you for hosting me in Manaus. You're awesome. You inspire me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mariatta. We've been honored to receive you here in Manaus for our edition in Python Brazil 2022. And for sharing your knowledge with us, we'd like you to give you this little gift for you. Alguém tem perguntas? Any questions? Okay.
I'm gonna... olá. Então, eu vou perguntar em português Mariatta, no.
Just a minute, they're going to give a translator for her.
Oh, hello. Olá.
Can you hear?
Estou...
Not yet.
Ok.
Okay, good.
Muito obrigado pelo seu keynote, por ter vindo aqui até Manaus, até Brasil, prestigiar a nossa conferência. E eu fiquei realmente emocionado aquela hora que você falou que você tinha sentido, que você tinha sido preconceituosa em relação a si mesma, né? Isso é que são os problemas estruturais da nossa sociedade, né? Que causam isso. Agora, eu queria te perguntar se você não acha... Eu sei que você trabalha no Google e você é uma Developer Advocate. Então, você está lá para criar uma ponte de comunicação entre o desenvolvimento do Google e os clientes, e você desenvolve APIs preocupada com a usabilidade, com as necessidades dos clientes, né? Eu estou pensando que talvez a comunidade Python precise de uma Developer Advocate. Sabe, porque apesar de ser open source, o projeto, então teoricamente é tudo transparente, na verdade não é tão fácil a comunicação entre os usuários da linguagem e os core developers. Então, acho que a gente devia pensar nisso, em criar essa função explícita. O que você acha?
I think that we definitely need such a role, people who will do this. I don't know about creating positions. If you said paid positions, that's something to talk about with the Python board, board of directors. Maybe Deborah can bring this up. But you can just do it if you just volunteer your time. Like I would think even people who speaks, people who write blog posts, they are advocating. They are sharing knowledge with the users. But I think we also need this bridge. We still don't have people who can advocate from the community to the Python core team. Because, like I said, there is this gap. I, as a core developer, I spent time trying to meet communities. This whole conference, I get to hear about your stories. These are the things that I can tell next time I meet the core developers in person. I can tell them, hey, Luciano said this feature shouldn't be deprecated. Like there's something I can do, but I think we need more. It's not just me. We definitely need, there is definitely just like, if initially I don't trust the core developers, I didn't trust Guido. He's this big guy I didn't know. I think it's the same way maybe the core developers don't trust the community who has not contributed. If they don't know you, right? Just the fact that the Python Steering Council elections where non-core developers can be voted. So far, we have not voted non-core developers into steering council. There is still this mistrust, like, oh, if you're not a core developer, how do we know you share the same visions with us? There is still this problem I don't know how to fix. I think that's why we need you to participate. Like, just make this gap from this big to a little smaller, you know?
We have a question online. It says, this is just a curiosity for a newbie. I'm saying in English, it's okay. I'm getting... Você está conseguindo entender em português? Está conseguindo ver em português? Tá.
No. What?
Tá conseguindo entender? Tá melhor?
Okay, you can ask the question in Portuguese and the translators will translate for me.
Tá bom, melhor. Uma curiosidade vinda de um novato. Como o tempo que nós gastamos colaborando com a linguagem de programação é medida?
Are you asking about like the measuring the time to be eligible for the PSF membership, or are you asking about how much time I contribute?
Quando você diz que são 5 horas de contribuição por mês, como esse tempo é medido?
This is an honor system. Nobody asks you for a spreadsheet. You self-certify, say, I spent 5 hours this month. Nobody will come and verify, okay? But it's an honor system with trust you, especially if you are actually already, you have commits. Like nobody will say, no, this is not enough. You just self-certify.
Eu acho que é essa a resposta. Mais alguma pergunta? Tem alguns aqui?
Oi, Mariatta. Muito obrigada pela sua palestra, foi maravilhosa. Eu mesma tenho uma história de que a comunidade me abriu essa porta e me trouxe para dentro, então fiquei bem emocionada. E uma das coisas que eu estava pensando enquanto você falava sobre essa questão, principalmente de desenvolvimento open source e trazer mais mulheres, não só mulheres, né? Todas as minorias, todas as pessoas que são grupos subrepresentados. Eu queria saber se tem um dos motivos que o open source é um mundo muito masculino também é a questão financeira, né? Em que as pessoas, principalmente esses grupos subrepresentados, não têm dinheiro, tempo ou apoio familiar ou de diversas formas para estar ali presente ocupando esse espaço. Será que tem algum plano, não necessariamente para agora, mas para talvez criar bolsas de incentivo para essas pessoas participarem da comunidade Python, mas sendo pelo menos parcialmente remuneradas de forma que a gente consiga atingir esses grupos que estão também lutando em questões financeiras?
This is hard. Financial is one barrier. I think there are already several programs, like I know there is Google. I say Google not because I am a member of Google, because I do know I have participated in a Google Summer of Code where students can receive grants and summer to contribute to open source. Okay. Is this okay? Okay. Do I need to repeat or? Yes. So there are programs. I don't think the PSF has specific programs yet for funding. Even for 27 years, 30 years of Python, only this last year, we are able to have enough funding sponsorship. Again, thank you, Google, for sponsoring the CPython core developers in residence. That we have one full-time employee employed by Python Software Foundation to work on Python. This whole time, everybody really are volunteers. There are companies who let their employees contribute to open source on work time. That have helped, and that is pretty much the the faster CPython team from Microsoft. They are paid by Microsoft, not the PSF, to work on Python. So companies have ways to support. I think there are a lot of different ways to help this, not just let's throw money, but how do we spread this money? This is an ongoing problem, and I think you should talk to the PSF board of directors if you have ideas like this. Tell them, give them ideas, run for the PSF board.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much for everyone. And vou voltar para português. Então é isso, pessoal. Muito obrigada. A gente vai fazer daqui a pouquinho o nosso encerramento, tá bom? Muito obrigada para todo mundo.